Hey, Jim Schuster here. In this segment, we're going to talk about arc flash label compliance. So this is an arc flash label here. So we're just going to talk about the labels, not about the rest of the arc flash here. So what are we looking for in an arc flash label? Well, according to NFPA 70E, there's really three things that must be on a label. One is the nominal voltage or the voltage, and that's going to help establish your shock hazard. Two, you're going to need your arc flash boundary, or the boundary where you need to wear your PPE if you cross that boundary. And three, at least one of the following, and this is where it gets a little more confusing, one of the following, but not both, of either the incident energy level and working distance. That's if you're using the incident energy level method for arc flash, or you can use the PPE categories if you're using the arc flash tables 130.7 from NFPA 70E. But you can't have both of them on there. So if you're using the incident energy method, you got to put the incident energy level. If you're using the tables method, you can use the PPE categories, but you can't mix the two. Additionally, you can also have the minimum arc rated clothing or the site-specific level of the PPE. So those are the three things that must be on a label. What you really find on a label typically is quite a bit more. So the three things I talked about are shown by the stars here. The arc flash hazard boundary in this case, that we knew that's one of the things. The next two, the incident energy and the working distance. Those are things that are required. In this case, we use the incident energy method. And then the shock hazard exposure is the nominal voltage. So those are the only three things that you see by the stars that are really required, or in this case, really kind of four. Everything else is highly valuable information, especially if you're an electrician. So if we look below the 480 volt VAC, you're going to see the insulated glove class that says that a 00 glove class will be acceptable for this voltage. Also provides a limited approach boundary and a restricted approach boundary. Off to the right hand side, we see the minimum arc rated clothing, and there it'll kind of give you the calories required along with all the specifics. It's going to say that you also need the arc flash face shield, the balaclava, hard hat, safety glasses, shoes, and so on. So all the details will be there. Right below that, typically you'll see the date and maybe the company name that did the analysis. And then some other things that some companies put on there. On the lower left is the equipment name. That's always good to know. And then the source that feeds that equipment. In other words, the protective device upstream that's feeding that piece of particular equipment. So that's what a compliant arc flash label looks like. Now let's look at what a non-compliant label looks like. So here we see two different types of labels that look very familiar if you walk across a lot of plants and facilities. But these are just generic labels that the manufacturer might put on as the equipment is supplied. And it really is just saying, hey, there's an arc flash here. But the reality is it's not compliant because it doesn't tell you what the level of the hazard is. It doesn't tell you what the arc flash boundary is or the PPE required. So if you see these labels on there, just be aware that these are generic labels that really provide little to no information for the person who's working on it and is not compliant. Now, the other parts of arc flash labels in compliance has to deal with ANSI Z535.4. And what this talks about is the specific things that got to be on the labels. So with this ANSI, this is about signs, safety signs and postings. Here you'll find information about the fonts, the specific words you can use, when you can use the word caution, when you can use the word warning, when you can use the word danger, specific colors, specific symbols, how things are arranged. And then the other part of that too is the label type. It's got to be industrial, made for the environment, to stick, not fade, all those other things. So those are the main pieces and components of compliance with arc flash labels.